Really know what's going on over there other than everybody's dumb.
The instant you step out of line, you say something that they don't like and they don't like you personally, they're going to use all those pre-existing laws and they're going to use it on you.
Woman exposed her male genitalia to women and underage girls. That's what happened.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way. It's super cringe.
Do we still need a disclaimer, Eric Butler, for COVID, or are we past that as a society?
Oh, no, definitely not. We're still... No, we're definitely not done with that yet. As you can see, they want to bring it back, right? Like, they want to bring back... LA County tried to bring it back, and now they're bringing it back at some national park because the mask is still very much necessary, and it's going to save you. And so,
The movie The Mask should come back. Jamie Kennedy is Mask 3. On unauthorizedopinions.com, uopod.com. Please subscribe on YouTube. Twitch guy, always watch.
Oh, you're frozen.
Twitch guy.
Frozen a little bit there. Sorry. There you go.
I'm frozen a little bit.
Well, you're a little bit. Now you're lagging a little bit. Your audio and your video is not quite matching up right now.
Canada. Spotify and Apple and Google Podcasts are all places you can find them. First, let's start off the show, Eric, with a new segment called "Is This Racist?"
Hi, I'm Yogi Okie Dokie, and this is my farm. Nice pose, Rasta. Morning, Hal now. Nice hat.
Ah, man. You can milk System Moo Cow for all the information.
Okie Dokie is my name. A healthy mind and body is my game. I live out on the farm, do yoga, yeah. I'm looser than a goose out in the rain. Come play yoga with me now. We'll have a moo cow. Let me and Rasta show you how. It's time for E-I-E-I yoga now.
All right, Eric, before we get into the creepier parts of this thing where the guy's, touching children and everything, is the Rastafarian cow with the Jamaican accent racist? I mean, sorry, rooster.
It's a rooster. No. Well, it's maybe it would be racist if it wasn't hilarious. Like if it's not, I mean, there's a joke, right? Like I guess my question is, do you think that they went out and said, yeah, like we're going to really stick it to these weirdo Jamaicans? No, it was supposed to be nice. I don't think anybody set out to make it racist, but how old is this approximately? If you had to guess, do you know?
I think it's early 90s.
Early 90s. Okay. So, you know what does remind me of?
What does it remind you of?
It does of that clip that's been floating around on Instagram from Keenan and Kale, where they go to the Chinese restaurant. You see that one? Where
Keenan and Kale.
Keenan and Kale. Did I say that wrong? Is that a weird accent?
Key and Peele?
No, Keenan and Kale.
It's from the 90s, apparently. Keenan? No, I haven't seen it regardless.
Wait, are you telling me right now you don't know Keenan and Kale, the show I Love Orange Soda and all that?
I'm telling you I don't know that. Correct.
Oh, wow. That is shocking.
I'm sorry, dude.
Well, there's an old clip from like it's late 90s perhaps. Yeah, late 90s. I don't think it's 2000s, where Keenan and Kale, of course Keenan later went on to go to work for Saturday Night Live. Kale, I don't really know what.
Oh, as Kale in Kenan Thompson?
Yeah. Okay. Like when he had the show growing up, like as a kid actor.
Oh, but I've seen that on like the Family Channel.
On Nickelodeon.
Yeah, we have what's called the Family Channel here. It's the same thing as Nickelodeon.
Okay, so there's a clip that's been floating around on Instagram. It's captioned like a meme, like "This could never happen now" or whatever. So they're sitting at the Chinese restaurant, and Kale's like, "I want chicken wings and orange soda," and he starts naming all this stuff, and then the guy's like, "Sir, this is a Chinese restaurant," and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, ching chang, wing bang."
Oh my god! Let me see if I can find that. Is it the kid with the short braids that was in Good Burger with him or something?
Yeah, yes. They were in Good Burger
Okay.
together. That's like that's where they got like more super
Keenan
famous from, like,
and
Keenan. I don't know if you
Kel
yeah, like Kel.
and Chinese restaurant.
You should be able to find it, hopefully.
Looks like I have. Hold on a second. There it is. All right, let's friggin' go here. Hold on, I don't know if we got the sound here for a second.
Oh, because the sound is going to be very important on this one.
Okay. No, audio should be on.
Okay, I don't want it to echo. I'll be quiet, or I don't know if you have like double input or whatever happens.
We'll find out together, dude.
May I take your order?
Yes. I will have a hamburger, onion rings, spaghetti and meatballs, corn, macaroni and cheese, and a picture of your finest orange soda.
Sir, this is a Chinese restaurant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ning Sheng Wan, Quan Wan Sheng Wan Day, Ding-a-ling Ching Pun, Wan Sheng, Shing Sheng, Mama, say Mama Madu Maku.
You want me to park your truck on my mother's face?
Now, is that racist?
Is that racist? You tell me. I don't think.
Oh,
black
I'm asking you.
Racist. Black people can't be
fair.
racist.
That's true. So, was it racist? Maybe, but given that was a young black man, then no, it is not. So I think we've solved the mystery here.
That's what your clip reminded me of. Now the clip that you have is, like I mentioned, maybe. Am I sorry? Is my sound all right? Sorry, I'm getting used to the new setup. It's creepy for maybe some different reasons, in my opinion.
Well, this clip gets creepy for some different reasons too.
Wow, do you feel that wind? Every time I feel a wind like this, it reminds me of something very, very important. It reminds me to breathe.
I think you all know what breathing is. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. Remember to breathe.
Don't forget to breathe, little yogis.
But this is what's creepy right here.
That was the rooster that said that?
See? There's a chicken scratching in the dirt.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Come down and rest when you need to.
Beautiful.
Yes. Great tractor, Michael. Nice pose, Rasta. Nice drop. It's beautiful looking downward dog. Nice planning job. Beautiful. Nice anvil, Christian. Oh, nice tomato. I'll save that for my sandwich.
Good one, Aaron.
Vegetable.
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 It's got awfully autistic real fast.
I want you to think about all the fun you've had today, moving and breathing.
Now, that got really creepy. But what would make it racist if the
Well,
If
anything can be racist, though, right? Like, it doesn't even matter, bro. Like, literally anything can be racist by today's standards. So I don't know what would make it racist by those standards. And it's creepy with the moaning, right? Like,
yes, very much
now
so.
I will say, and maybe this is unpopular, but if we could have just left it there, right? When we look at where we are now with the drag queen story hour and the books, and we've covered what, at least a couple like really sexualized books for kids. So if we could have left it there, maybe we could have been like, all right, well, it's just a weird kid show by some guy who takes acid on the weekends or something. I think that's what Nickelodeon was typically known for. But now it's like we see this as being sort of a stepping stone to where we are now. So it's incredibly creepy. As far as your question, is it racist? I guess it depends on who you ask, bro. It's just one weird Rasta rooster. Is that what it is? Like a Rastafarian rooster. So sure. I guess I'll go with yes.
That's
Racist.
fair. From the possibly racist bird community to Martin Luther King Day, which I didn't realize. Is it an actual holiday? I noticed on my app that I have, it's like the stock market trading will be closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Day. I was like, come on.
Yeah, I think it's a bank holiday.
Feelings
Like
Day, basically.
like are schools in? I don't even no.
I don't know.
Schools get the I don't know, but this is obviously very weird.
So it's two arms, I guess, hugging each other, but people are really sharing it from the other angle where it basically looks like two
Dog
hands holding like a big poo or a piece of bread. Or just like something Millhouse's dad draws dignity.
That was a
Standing 2
classic.
stories tall, a Hank Willis Thomas sculpture honoring Martin Luther King Jr. is unveiled in Boston Common. The statue is a poignant symbol of the power of love. So yeah, right from that angle, it looks pretty weird until you see that it's two arms around each other. It's hard to draw arms without a body on it, I guess, but it's supposed to be him and who? Him and his wife?
Yeah, Coretta Scott King, I think.
Well, where's the picture of him and his wife? I thought that was in here. They don't have it in here. Well, that's stupid. But there's a picture that's based off of, and it says a leader in the civil rights movement. I don't think we need to read about Martin Luther King Day. I just think we're here to talk about if it's a good statue or not, and whether or not this was worth all the money. 22,000 activists and civil rights. Here's an interesting question for you, though, Eric. When conservatives bring up having the views of Martin Luther King, and I've seen this in several videos, and the first one that comes to mind is an old Owen Schroyer video where he's talking to a bunch of Antifa types, and he says that he's got the Martin Luther King style of viewpoint, and they sort of laugh at him. And leftists sort of use this caricature of Martin Luther King from a conservative point of view of a way that they can prove that they're not racist. Now, the further right view of that, I would say, is that the movement that Martin Luther King was a part of and put to the front of it's basically still the same movement as we see today. And John Doyle did a good job of breaking this down in one of his super long videos before, where basically the other people
3-hour dissertations that I'm sorry,
it was like an hour and 20 minutes, I want to say.
Isn't he beefing with sorry to interrupt? Didn't John Doyle and Nick Fuentes have some sort of beef a little while ago?
I have no idea.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. Continue.
I'd imagine Fuentes is like, you don't like Hitler enough and stuff, but how dare you? That's the real edgy position, is to go full that's when you've run out of ideas of how to be edgy, is when you're just like, yeah, Nazism is cool. But so some of the people involved in the movement there, where literally there's a speech from one woman where it's Hill Whitey is essentially the crux of her speech. Now, do you see it that way? Have you ever looked into it? Or do you see Martin Luther King still, as I'm sure many of us did in our younger years, as this huge equal opportunity, I have a dream moment?
Well, I think it's okay to still look to Martin if it helps you, right? Now, I'll admit I've been jaded by the last at least 6 years, like since the Trump era, where you start to realize that everything you've been told is basically a lie. So we don't know. There's people that go out there and, you know, talk about how he cheated on his wife left and right, or maybe there was some domestic violence or whatever. I don't know. Don't quote me. I don't know. I don't know the man. So if it helps you to be a good person, to think of Martin Luther King as a good guy, fine. If you know, it's like nothing's off the table at this point, right? So we have to question every single person. We don't know who's lying. We don't know who's telling the truth. We don't know if Martin Luther King was really a good guy. We don't know who killed him, or maybe we do know who killed him. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. My entire thing with this stupid statue is that A, it's 2 stories tall, and B, no, you can't just make this abstract thing that looks like dog droppings or perhaps human droppings in San Francisco, but because nobody would know what that meant. If you can't just make something that you have to explain. It's not like abstract art you put in a gallery. This is like a public art that's supposed to be a monument to Martin Luther King on Martin Luther King Day, and you make it so abstract that if you didn't sit there and explain it to everybody, nobody would know what it means. That's my thing. It's like, dude, you guys you wasted all this money, you wasted all this time, all these people. And for the record, we've watched, this is the most insulting thing, okay? So we're all talking about the price of eggs and the gas stove and all that argument right now, right? Which is incredibly despicable, especially considering how now we're dealing with this thing called tranq, because fentanyl just wasn't enough. Now we have tranq to deal with. But what's more offensive and what's more despicable than the price of eggs, inflation, and the gas stove stuff is the fact that for the last 3 years, we watch these crazy people destroy cities, vandalize entire blocks, tear down statues, and now we are replacing them with abstract art that we're just supposed to automatically love because some weirdo guy made a piece of poop that he says is supposed to be dedicated to Martin Luther King. They tore down these statues. They put up a 20-foot statue of George Floyd in Baltimore, I think. Was it Baltimore or Philadelphia? They put up this giant statue of George Floyd, and I don't know why a city that he wasn't even from is praising him like this patron saint of fentanyl that he is. And they're putting up paintings, murals of Greta Thunberg, and that's far more offensive that these people have taken not only your time, or I guess maybe not your time, it didn't take me any time, but so much money to make these stupid things after they destroyed monuments for the last 3 years, and they're putting up their new regime monuments as ugly abstract art and a dope fiend and a little girl who didn't even finish school. Like, this is incredibly despicable, and it's all tied in, right? Like I said, just to bring it full circle with the stove thing, it's like, well, we don't want you to cook on a gas stove. Meanwhile, we can see Jill Biden cooking spinach on a gas stove. They want you to sit at home and microwave your bugs. You know what I mean? You wouldn't even be able to cook the bugs on a nice gas stove in a wok with some seasonings. Just put them in the microwave and eat soggy bugs. And it's all tied in together. I know it might feel like a Charlie Kelly conspiracy, but I promise you it's all linked together, and it's triggering to say the least. Jesus.
That was quite the rant, Eric Butler.
Sorry, I can't do with this nonsense anymore. It's driving me up a wall.
That's okay. The George Floyd statue, as I just showed there, is in New Jersey.
When I say Baltimore, Philly, same difference. It's all the same.
Exactly, right? Baltimore, Philly, Jersey, nobody knows.
It's all the
Nobody
same,
knows
bro.
what it is.
I'm sure there's just for the record, there's probably somebody right now sleeping under that statue with a needle in their arm.
Or just sitting next to him with a needle. Rest in peace, George Floyd. I found what I was talking about for John Doyle. Let's take a listen.
Go out to her car and get a gun and then come back and murder her white supervisor in cold blood. And I'll explain why this is significant afterwards, but take a look at this and listen very closely to what she's saying.
You heard about the case of Emily Butler? It's a very tragic case.
This voice,
when we talk about racism and the black worker, we have to look
communism
try to
right
understand
there.
What's been happening with the Emily Butlers. She's the sister who worked at the Atlanta Internal Revenue Service Bureau. And as she had mentioned on many occasions prior to the charges being lodged against her, she felt that she was a particular target of the racism, the institutionalized racism, in the sense that she never got promoted whenever times for promotion came around. Whenever she made a request, her request was always denied. And when it came to just outright, blatant, overt racist harassment, she had to deal with that every single day, every day she went to work. And you see, one day, she asked to see her doctor, and they told her no. And then they started screaming at her that she had punched in her time card 2 minutes late. And then the white 4 men and 4 women really began to get on her back. And the sister became so desperate that she didn't know what to do. And she went and got a gun and she shot 2 women. But you see, let's try to understand what was happening in that situation. Because that's certainly not the answer to liberation.
Right, wrap it up.
I mean,
She's just rambling now.
Hundreds of thousands of Emily Butlers. And we have to realize that Emily Butler is not guilty. It is racism that pulled that trigger. Racism. And if anybody needs to be indicted and imprisoned, it's the reincarnation of racism himself, Richard Nixon.
I see. The president.
Did you notice how the audience started clapping after she said that she shot the woman in cold blood? Like they had to be shushed because they started clapping. And she also says, it is racism that pulled that trigger. What a sentence. There is literally...
That's basically what I was referring to, where it was like...
Now, I'm sorry, can you refresh me on
or...
who that woman actually was?
She was involved in the movement in some way. I'll scroll back to when he talks about her.
Well, but it's not like, I mean, she's loosely related or loosely affiliated with Martin Luther. I mean, she was in the movement, but she's not, is she like a household name, or I don't know who that was.
I forget.
But I will say, they clearly, we know where these people are getting their talking points from. I mean, that speech could have been given yesterday almost.
Exactly. That was my basic point. Not who the woman was, but like, has that movement actually like changed at all? And you look back and she immediately starts talking about the workers, which is, you know, what people say when they're talking about communism and socialism. And then people may or may not have been racist to her, but that's justification to go and shoot a bunch of your people at your office because they were mean to you. I mean, we can go back to I'm sure I've talked about this before. We can go back to when I was like one of like 2 white guys on the basketball team, and I go to the bathroom and all the other guys on the team take all my stuff out of my backpack and spread it amongst themselves and think it's hilarious.
It does sound pretty funny.
It's funny until they don't give it back. And then is that justification for me is being mean to me? Like, I guess it's the classic case of bullying, but as an adult, I think you have responsibility to not act out in violence when people are being just mean to you and they're not being violent towards you. And like in a movie context, that's what you want. You're just like, yeah, go kill those people or whatever. But in a real life context, that's supposed to have consequences. But when you can actually just talk those consequences away by saying like their meanness is what caused this to me, is what justified me to do this, you start to get into a whole realm of, okay, well, how do you determine what's too far? And that's why I disagree with certain laws. Like there was a big case in Canada a few years ago where a girl got convicted because she encouraged her boyfriend over the internet to commit suicide. And I think that there's still a onus on the person to have self-responsibility for their own actions. So I could say, Eric, drive your car into the Grand Canyon 50 times, and then you're finally on the 51st time like, oh, I'm doing it. And then the police charge me for inciting this out of you. I don't think that I should be held responsible for your foolish actions.
It sounds
personally.
like that Office episode where Michael Scott drives the car into the river because the GPS malfunctioned or whatever.
That one was. So my girlfriend has The Office on a loop. Basically, when she doesn't know what to watch, it's on loop. So I did see that one the other day.
But can I say to your point about the like what you want in a movie, not to get too like conspiratorial or weird or tinfoil hat, but like this is what these people live in, right? They want that. Not only do they have all these weirdo Hollywood people pushing their agenda left and right, whether it's some weirdo HBO actress who now says she's whatever, gender liquid, whatever. Or Lizzo. I've been watching. I don't know if I mentioned it to you or if I was talking to somebody else, but I've been watching. I have an HBO password now. Shout out to my mom.
You did mention that.
So I've been watching Curb and Sopranos and I might even start on The Wire. But every time I go to the HBO menu, there's this watch Lizzo live. You know what I mean? So their agenda is all. I mean, not to even mention the idea that and not even bringing in the transgender thing, right? Like their whole life is basically a movie, right? So they don't even down to, again, not to be like too weird, but even down, if you think about like these young rappers and they're dying left and right and they're getting shot. I think a lot of these kids, they're not even old enough. Their brains aren't fully formed enough. I don't know what it is, but they genuinely, I think some of these kids can't even put the dots together as far as like the mortality, bro. Like they don't even realize what's happening. So again, maybe that's a bridge too far. Maybe that's a stretch, but I think for just how you mentioned, like, in a movie, like just in passing. So this will be good for a movie, but like they don't even live in reality, bro. So they do think that, like, they look to these weirdo celebrities and these actors and musicians and stuff, and they don't know what's going on. So they, for all intents and purposes, they think everything is a movie.
Trailer Park Boys. I forget what Ricky says. All intents and purposes. I'm sure there's a Rickyism there.
Is that still on Netflix, by the way?
Yes, it is. All 12 seasons.
All 12. Because I know
core. And the two most important things to understand about this are that, one, Martin Luther King was not the only black leader in America at the time. And two, actions speak louder than words. We have to look at this within its complete historical context. And existing concurrently to Martin Luther King was a movement of black nationalists that was becoming increasingly popular. And these people would straight up give press conferences where they would explicitly call for violence against Whitey. And this was like scaring white people. And so Martin Luther King had to come out and just keep reminding people that what his movement was about was nonviolence and that they were against violence. And so this is because King understood correctly that he was going to need the support of white people in order to achieve the power necessary to implement his goals. Whereas the black nationalists, they'd basically given up on white people. They weren't allowing white people into their groups. They were calling, of course, for violence against white people, etc. And King's understanding of the necessity of white support gets into the other components of the nonviolence perception, which is that people operating within his coalition, they would deliberately go into places where they knew they would be met with hostility. And they would instruct the young people to literally cause trouble at these demonstrations so that they would devolve into chaos, because they understood that once the cameras were rolling and they captured these shots of the fire hoses and the nightsticks, then that footage would make people feel sympathetic to their cause and feel more inclined to support them, which is exactly what happened. The news media would broadcast out of context footage to support the narrative of these people, and the masses would go along with it because it was effective. So,
yeah.
Does this ring a bell? I mean, the point...
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if you...
Go
ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've ever watched Mad Men, but
no,
the way Mad Men is written historically, if accurate, shows that there is just a grave misplaced trust in the media, given when Kennedy was shot and then when his brother was shot again. But the way that people reacted, they didn't react like the president had just been shot, which is messed up in itself. They acted like their favorite celebrity, who is also worldly known as the greatest person in the world, has been shot. It'd be like if Beyonce and and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama were all killed together. Like, that's the reaction people had when Kennedy was killed, as he was not only the president, but he was this massive celebrity. And to live in that world where you don't even know that you're being lied to all the time by the TV, and that John Kennedy is the greatest president of all time. He's not involved with the mob at all. He doesn't have any bad policies whatsoever, just like they did with Justin Trudeau's father. These people got swept up in it, thinking that this was that this was reality, and then when this reality is taken away from them, and they can't understand why nobody would be against this person or why nobody sought to kill John F. Kennedy, as bad as their reasons would be. They're just like in this lost land of basically George Floydism. How could this happen? Why would somebody do this? It must have been just an act of pure evil and pure racism coming from this top-down portion of the state. When people watch the news media and they believe it wholeheartedly, which many people still in adulthood do, mostly Generation X, probably doesn't care as much as millennials, but certainly millennials watch TV and social media through this lens of this is the only point of view. And then when Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel say, look at these weird people, and look how the government of Sweden responded to Trump saying it was Trump saying there's bad stuff happening in there. They're just like, well, this is the normal point of view, and everything outside of that, everybody agrees is the insane person. So what I think John Doyle is pointing to back then is exactly that. Whereas people see on TV, look at all this stuff, this movement only exists as a movement of Martin Luther King, where everybody wants to be equal, get treated equally under the law, which is the Democrats doing, by the way, not to punch that in there. But when something bad happens, they can't even imagine that there's this other side of the movement where they're telling people to cause problems, or there's a woman justifying murdering her coworkers, and their world gets shattered. And it surprises me, Eric Butler of Tatum Report and UOPod.com, that every single time something happens, people still think, oh, this next new thing, the Ukraine war is just and power to the people, and we're all good people for believing in it. Oh, George Floyd. Oh, what's the girl and her boyfriend getting shot by the police?
Breonna
Taylor. Oh, every single thing that happens. Oh, the people being whipped at the border by the guards on horseback. Every single time something new happens, everybody just presses that flash button from the Men in Black, and they're just like, okay, no, this one is real. This one is the good one.
Well, yes, but I do think no. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, it's just, like what everybody calls the current thing, right? And you don't even I was in the grocery store the other day, and the baby formula is still entirely out. There's like little vouchers there, like come back on this date or whatever, like whatever. But nobody's even talking about that anymore. So yes, that is happening. However, I do, on the plus side, I think this is maybe a glass half full take, is that I think there are far more people who can see through it than we're led to believe. And I've always said that the media, of course, works in two ways, right? So yes, it does brainwash stupid people and trick them into believing false things. But it also is tricking regular common sense people into believing that they are the minority when we're not, right? So yeah, we see a lot of, even in California, like being at home for two or 3 weeks or whatever it was, like, yeah, there's people and they have their, I will admit, this is weird. I think I saw more Ukraine flags than I saw USA flags. But still, when you break it down and you actually talk to people, like, if you, what's the old saying? I forget who said this. You could fact check me or look it up or whatever. But people are stupid, but a person is usually fairly smart, right? So when you look at the entirety of the San Francisco Bay Area, yeah, they all look like morons. But when you break it down and you actually are able to sit down and talk to somebody, they can tell that it's all nonsense, but they've also all been scared into the corner of, well, everybody else is so it's all, yes, it's astroturf, it's dropped down, and they've been scared, led by fear, to believe that they're the only ones when that's not true. So I think that's a good thing, or maybe that's bad. I don't know. And really quick, last thing about what Doyle was saying there, it just brings up the memory of this story from, I think, late 2020, because late 2020 was the worst of the virus. I mean, everything, we were just gonna die. Like, you got to get the shot, you got to wear 2 masks. Fauci told you to even put goggles on. You know what I mean? But somehow the protesters and stuff were out in force, and that was not a conflict of interest. So somehow they slid that by some people. But there's that story, I don't know if you remember it, in Uptown, I think it was like kind of like a fancy Madison Avenue or like some fancy restaurant in kind of like uptown Manhattan, where these BLM protesters were walking down the street, and a girl, with like kind of like a chubby looking girl with braids or something, takes a drink off of takes a beer off of a table of an older couple, probably a couple like in their 60s or something, that's eating. She drinks the beer and then puts the cup back down. And in that moment, she's being a jerk on purpose, right? Like Doyle said, they want the chaos because the footage can be flipped in their favor. So when this girl drinks this guy's beer and tells him, "Screw white people, put your fist up or we're gonna punch you in the face." No, I'm paraphrasing there. I don't want to. I don't know exactly what she said, but she did drink the beer. But she now knows that this couple is not going to like them, not because she's black, but because she's being a jerk directly to their face. But she can spin it and say, "Told you, I knew you were racist the entire time." It has nothing to do with the fact that I just drank an $8 beer that I took off your table. You know what I mean? And so they're using the same playbook, and they know it works, and it's still working, but not quite as good. And that's why we see so much censorship and people who start to come off the plantation, like MIA now is getting canceled. So it's a real battle, bro. Like we don't. I mean, eventually, I think the truth will come out. I don't know if it'll be in our lifetime. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it can't go on forever. It can't. Like even if you go by their logic, it's gonna eat itself, right? Like a man is not gonna have a baby with a man. You can't cut your dick off and go like it if they win, they still lose, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, and it makes you really question everything. And you can go as far to like a Jesse Lee Peterson part where he says racism never existed, pretty much, or you can go all the way to the other place and say that it existed in everything. It's somewhere in between, obviously, but something that people don't really understand is that it has come from historically the same group when we're talking about being on a large scale, and that was the Dixiecrats to the Democrats. And those people are still there. It's not in the law, it's not done through these institutions, but you have to wonder, Joe Biden getting along with segregationists and Dixiecrats, does he, you know, does he sit there in office and be like, I don't really care what happens to black people?
Well, Joe Biden, he's not doing anything.
He's not thinking anything, really, is the problem there. So I don't think that there is like an institutional racism under the law. I think that's very hard to prove. And I don't think people are walking around being mean to each other all the time. I don't think that at all, in the workplace, especially where everybody seems to be tolerating, transgender teachers, and you've seen the videos from inside Twitter and everything. I don't think that stuff exists on a mass, but what I do think exists is the fact that you have people pushing things in sort of a reverse manner to get their point across, like we've discussed with the Aunt Jemima and the Goya beans and all this stuff. Uncle Ben, yeah, get them off, get their representation off there, because it's racist to promote like this famous black woman who was alleged to be one of the first millionaires. I think that's been debunked or something, but she was like an actress, obviously. Get them off there, and that's better for them. But at the same time, also, representation matters. So I think there's whoever the powers that be are trying to do anything in a reverse manner just to mess with people. I don't think they have a preference over which race does what. I think they just want it to not purposely not make sense, so nobody can get to the bottom of things and then say, hey, it's actually Klaus Schwab and all the presidents of these countries that are getting together right now as we speak in Davos, Switzerland.
Yeah.
And putting together some messed up policy that they're going to implement in the next 2 years, and they'll do that again.
Yeah, well, they want, yeah, you're right. They want chaos and anger. They don't really care exactly who does what, as long as it's chaotic and somebody's angry at somebody else. And yeah, the representation thing is also a complete fallacy, right? I mean, you can look at Brandon Tatum or Candace Owens, just, the big names. Like that doesn't count for representation, right? We don't want representation in the common sense, right? We want representation for what we want. So that's all completely fake. And yeah, to your point about the institutionalized racism, that's just about as real as assault weapon. It's just a made up thing made up fear mongering term like assault weapon and climate crisis. It's all just fear mongering. And the left, I mean, they have, I mean, quite literally everything for them has always been life and death, right? If you want to drive a truck, that's climate change, that's life and death. If you want to eat red meat, that's cow farts, that's life and death. If you don't wear a mask, that's life and death. If you don't get the shot, that's life and death. If you don't capitulate to this little boy who's been brainwashed by TikTok and the Disney Channel and now thinks he's a little girl, he's gonna off himself, and that's all your fault. It's always life and death. And just for the record, that, you know, they're good at it. That's what they do. Now, as we battle with the censorship and stuff, their grasp becomes a little less strong. I hope. Like I said, there's a couple cities in California, New York, and maybe Chicago, whatever, Seattle, that still buy this. But for the most part, nobody's actually buying that. And I don't want to let the, I guess, quote unquote, right wing, or I can't even say right wing, but like, you know, typically the common sense or the quote unquote critical thinkers, they have all their scare tactics too, right? Like, I mean, look, I get it. I should probably be healthier, right? You know, getting old and fat and all that stuff. But if I want to eat kid cereal because I like the way it tastes, then I'm going to do it. I don't need to hear from every single conservative on the planet like, oh, well, don't eat sugar and you have to reverse osmosis your water and don't go to don't shop at this place. It's like, dude, I'm done. We're not living in fear on every single thing. So they do it too. It's just with different things. You know what I mean? It's like, if you like, you don't buy a certain pH balanced water, then that's unhealthy. And you know what I mean? It's like, dude, everybody has their things. And like, will you just leave me alone? Like, you know,
there's got to be a Shark Tank version of this where they go in and they have a hardcore leftists come in like, here's my idea, right? We're gonna make people feel guilty about eating beans. And do you want to put $100,000 behind this idea? Will be called Black Lives Matter. We're going to be able to raise $88 million. You'll get 20% of it. And then Kevin O'Leary's just like, how about I loan you $200,000 for only 5% equity? And if George Floyd dies.
Jesus Christ. All right. Now you're canceled. You're definitely canceled. I've already been canceled, so it doesn't really matter to me, but Jesus Christ.
Moving on, I suppose. We've got the guy hosing a person in front of an art shop 2 days after a San Francisco art gallery.
Is an art shop.
What do you do at an art gallery? You fucking buy art, Eric Butler.
It's just kind of funny. An art shop. All right, fair enough.
San Francisco sucks anyways. Who cares what it is? Sprayed her garden hose on a sidewalk in the posh Jackson. Is it really posh if there's a homeless person sitting outside of your establishment there?
Well, that's a good question.
The homeless woman, nonprofit workers, and officials known as Q.
Oh, wait. So can I just really quick? This particular article is actually using the word homeless. And I noticed, and I read several other articles that all said unhoused. So I guess.
Yes, I did. Person experiencing homelessness. Yeah.
Okay. So at least they're kind of still trying to remain in the realm of reality, I suppose. I mean, what does it matter?
So now there's 3 Qs. There's James Bond Q. There's early 2000s NBA player Quentin Richardson as Q. And now there's this homeless woman was receiving treatment in a local hospital. So this person who got hosed down had to be hospitalized. I'm going to go ahead and say, Eric, that this person was found by somebody who's a lawyer or a public relations person, said, let's take you to the hospital so we can get money out of this. I don't know what injuries you get from a hose, but maybe I'll be wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. It was unclear as of Wednesday what Q was being traded for. Police were investigating the incident that was recorded and posted online by a chef from a nearby bakery with plans to present the case to the city for a charging decision. Let's just make that a bit bigger for everyone. Join the conversation on MSN. We don't write our own stuff. We just steal it from everyone. The process from here is to collect evidence, interview witnesses, develop the case, and present it to the district attorney. Police Chief Bill Scott says Q was nowhere to be found Wednesday afternoon, by which point the glass door of the art gallery Foster Gwynn on Montgomery Street had been smashed. A board placed over the hole as a police cruiser lingered outside. Continue reading. We press on so that they can, quantify how many people are pressing that. It's all a lie, Eric. The whole world's a lie. I understand that there is a frustration out there and that there's an impulse to act, Scott said. Right now, what we need is civility. If you're frustrated with the situation, please do not act on your anger. Sounds like an Oasis song. Take a step back, call the police so that they can help. The next thing that happened there, Eric, is that they attacked seemingly the wrong place. San Francisco gallery mistakenly attacked online after video of man spraying homeless woman.
Yeah, because these
And
people, they're
so
morons.
they went ahead. They went ahead and attacked the wrong art gallery, as this guy's saying. Which I don't know how that works. So was the guy standing in front of it?
Look, I don't know. I thought it was.
And they thought.
No, I'm sorry. Continue.
I just don't understand. If it was a guy standing in front of the thing and nobody knew where he was from, or if it was a different thing altogether and they just went to the wrong neighborhood. I don't know. You tell me.
Well, people just get so high up on their moral outrage that they're not even paying attention. They don't know what's going on. They're all absolute morons. And this doesn't really matter. But since we were talking about Q, there's also Quentin Miller, who allegedly wrote a whole bunch of Drake songs and then lost his leg in a motorcycle accident. That's the Q that I think of. Neither here nor there. Back to the story. I just sent you a link. I don't know if you got it or if you can play it, but this is how crazy these people. So this
spray me with some water.
Yeah. So
I'll play it.
San Francisco legend Selsky.
I want you to spray me with some water. I'm right here. Nah, you got to be more than sorry, bro.
What does that mean?
You need to apologize to everybody in San Francisco.
Okay, pause it. You can start. So there's a couple things here about this guy who is he's a rapper or whatever, or he's a washed up rapper from the 90s or early.
The Selsky guy?
Yeah, from the 90s or 2000s or something. So it's they again kind of say the quiet part out loud, like you need to be more than sorry. So the guy apologized and they're like, no, not enough, right? Because it will never be enough. So you shouldn't have apologized in the first place. Because look, we all know that, or we can assume. I don't want to pretend like I know this for a fact, but does anybody really think that this guy just showed up to his gallery one day and started randomly hosing down this woman for sleeping in front? No, they'd probably had a back and forth for months, bro. She was probably sitting there shooting up, pooping, spitting at people, begging for money while he's trying to do his business. Now, these San Franciscans can go out there and claim, well, this is capitalism and he shouldn't be, if he makes $1 million, then he should give her some of the money or something stupid like that. So I think it's pretty clear that this wasn't the first interaction that those two have had. Now, is it right to spray someone with a hose? No, but it's kind of funny. These people get what they deserve. Okay. You're sleeping on the street in a pile of needles and your own feces. So yeah, you get a little water. Too bad. Sorry, I have a cold black heart. Doesn't matter. And then he's taunting the guy in his car. He's obviously in a car saying, why don't you spray me with some water? Well, you're driving down the street.
Imagine if he did.
Well, but you're driving down the street in your car and you can go home to your house that you've made on, I guess, rap music from 1998 or maybe Coke sales or whatever it was you were doing, bro. But you're trying to pretend like, spray me with some water. You so tough. It's like, dog, you're not a problem. You're not the one keeping people from wanting to go inside of his art gallery because there's a pile of poo on the ground. You're driving around in a car and you're up on this moral high ground like you're going to save this woman, which it's the equivalent of, like you said, ambulance chasers, like some PR firm or some lawyer or somebody got in touch with this person and said, okay, well, we can turn this story into a 30% cut for us and give this woman a bunch of money so she can have a crack party and be back out on the street in 2 months anyways. So they're all just so delusional in their, it's like that South Park episode where they like the smell of their own farts. Like that guy, that old rapper posted that. I mean, that is a repost from the Bay Area, meme news account or whatever. But he posted that to his actual social media, I think TikTok, a Selsky TikTok or something, because he thinks in his head that him driving down the street in his car, taunting the guy, and then the guy apologized and he said, we need more than an apology, is going to come off good. That's how out of touch these people are with actual reality. Meanwhile, you go down the street in San Francisco, and I think it was either Sav or Danny Mullen. I know those two are very different, but they were both in San Francisco recently, where they go to one of the treatment centers and get a box of needles and rubber bands to tie off with and little strips of foil to smoke dope with. But when the guy asks, well, hey, I really want to kick the habit, where can I go to like help somebody find me kick? And they're like, we don't know. So we'll give you all this free stuff, quote unquote free, so you can keep using. But if you want to get help to get off this stuff, we don't have anything about that. So this is how out of touch they are, and this is why San Francisco is in the dire straits that they're in. And last little bit here, when the mayor of San Francisco, your favorite, London Breed, kind of pinpointed, and I've dealt with these people myself, the Honduran immigrants who control the drug market in that neighborhood, or in San Francisco, almost in the entire city, with the exception of like the Bayview, Hunters Point, which is mostly black. Different story. She said the Honduran immigrants are the ones fueling this drug problem, and she was called a racist. A black woman, the mayor of San Francisco, was called a racist for identifying the problem that they're dealing with, and that's why it will never get solved. But of course, they don't want to solve it. So, sorry, I'm just getting too turned up. It's just crazy to watch these people twist themselves up into a pretzel trying to pretend that they're on their moral high horse because some bum got sprayed. If it weren't going to be a payday for some ambulance chasing lawyer, if it wasn't going to be a couple million views for Selsky and his washed up rap career, nobody would have done any of this. They don't really care. They're not walking through the tenderloin trying to actually help people ever. I doubt it. And if they were, we would probably hear about it.
Well, if you're going to go confront the person, first of all, he went there with that purpose. You're not just driving by and recognizing the guy who is in that video and be like, wait a minute, let me say something. He went there with a purpose, and that's premeditating. So if he gets into a fight, this guy's going to be, or in a sane place, not San Francisco, this guy's going to be found guilty for premeditating his assault. But it's the fact that you pulled out your phone. You're no longer doing a good thing, a selfless thing, if you pull out the phone so that you can get immediately recognized for it. If you want to go ahead and admit you're recording this so that you can get the clout for it, then that's probably better than pretending that you're doing something for good. It's like, see somebody with a car turned over on the side of the road, and you go in and you're just like looking at the guy and videotaping him, and it's like, sorry bro, I could pull you out, but, or like grabbing them with one hand and filming them with the other hand, sort of thing. Like, that doesn't make you a good person. That means you want to be recognized for being a good person, but not actually wanting to. You don't want to do the deed itself for that reason. You just want to do the deed so that people think you're a good person, so you can get the clicks. I get it, but this is not like you're gonna drive down the street, find out where this guy's store is, and then yell at him from your car, and then be like, I'm a moralistically a better person because I'm yelling at you for a thing that the group think has determined is bad. And I am, like everybody says, you're feeding the machine, you're giving the machine what it wants, and you're praying to the social justice gods like, look how good I am. Look, I'm doing the thing that everybody says I should be doing when I post my Ukraine flag or something.
Yeah.
Let's see what this guy had to say here, I think, was this interview.
Let's not forget that he literally said you need to be more than sorry. And that's what they're after, is a complete submission.
He's like, apologize, and he's like, I'm going to, and he's like, no, you need to be more than sorry.
It's crazy.
So I don't know what exactly that means.
836M, located just up the street, also on Montgomery, found out that their Google reviews were also suffering. People angry with Gwyn mistakenly left comments on their profile. There are actually many art galleries in that vicinity. One comment posted a photo of the incident, so employees...
And I think it's fair to say, again, I don't want to make too much of an assumption, but if that guy was black, if that was a black gallery owner, this wouldn't be a story.
Probably not.
Of 836M have had to respond saying that they are just neighbors and they're not affiliated, but instead...
All right, well, we get the gist of it. We had a good run there. Too many videos were working in our favor there. So this is what always happens, right? The immediate reaction without knowing the actual story, you go after the wrong people. And this is just what happens. It happens with every story. They get the reaction they want, you get the views, you get the clicks, and then the follow-up never gets. Like, how many people are going to see that they attacked in the wrong place versus how many people saw the video? 1/10 usually, I think, is the number that they go for.
And then they would probably just use the excuse. It's kind of similar to the excuse that we always hear, like the a Jussie type of thing. Like, well, it wasn't in this case, but it's a symptom. You know what I mean? Not right now, but this is still a problem. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't even matter, bro.
All right, let's see what we got here for Washington Post talking about do it yourself.
You got to read the caption though first.
COVID is not going away for the foreseeable future, it says. Vaccination, rapid tests, and appropriate masking are important ways to protect against getting sick and spreading the virus. See, what's weird about that is that we've already publicly acknowledged, even in the crooked mainstream media that censored everybody who spoke out against it, it's already been acknowledged that it did not protect this from the spread of the virus. They don't really talk about masks, but that's been proven that it doesn't stop the spread of everything. Obviously, better air quality is going to prevent people from getting sick. But whoever is writing this stuff at the National Post is just like, they got so caught up in the propaganda that even though all the new stuff has already come out, either they don't care or they just haven't cared to update their information. That's really strange. Let's see what it's like.
In our homes, you have no fresh air coming inside in the wintertime. And this is a way to clean the air. Try to make sure that the pleats are vertical, that the arrows on all the boxes are pointing inwards to the cube.
I don't think this woman knows what she's talking about. Those very filters that she's using are the filters that you put on your furnace because the air comes in, it heats up, then it gets dispersed through your house. What is she talking about? She's using the filters that you use on your furnace and air conditioning intake to filter the air.
And now you make the base by cutting out from the box that the fan came in. Tape up all the sides.
This is what...
Here you have it. It's the cube
house is.
With the box as the base. And the fan should fit pretty much right over your box.
Holy shit.
You want to seal everything up so there's no...
And she's going to put this in a window or just blow it around the room?
I don't know.
The best way to do it is to go around so you don't have to like break the outside. But if you did, you could just tape it up. No big deal.
She's like the third one.
Shroud.
Teresa
It
Tam.
goes on top like this.
There's
I'm going to show the home viewers.
CNN lady?
Yeah, and her. She's like the third one.
She's just making a ghetto air conditioner?
I guess so.
Go outside and
We are
go
done.
for a walk, somebody says.
You have the top of the box where the clean air is coming out. You have these air filters that are sucking in the air that is filled with all sorts of nasty stuff. And then you are good to go.
Just like that.
I'd like to reinforce here. What this woman is describing is a common air filtration system that already exists in your home. Either she's never went down to the basement to change the filter on her intake, or she just lives in an apartment building and she has, for her whole life, she has no idea. The very same filter she's using and the exact same system she's using is, what do you want to call it? A jimmy rig, a ghetto version of an intake. You have these sets of pipes, sets of ducts that come in. They're called air ducts. They're in your home. The air comes in from the outside. A fan pulls it in. You can go outside and see your air conditioning unit. And then you put one of those exact filters in between the pipe of the air coming in and the air going in through being distributed into your house to filter the air. And then you go in every 3 or 4 months and you see all the dirt that's been filtered from the air coming in from outside. That's so extraordinarily dumb, Eric Butler. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
it's amazing. She's never considered what actually happens in a home. She just thinks that your chimney, everything that falls in there, is just coming down and you're breathing it in.
Yeah,
or you could also just open a window in the winter. You're not going to die. But
she's using this. It's fear propaganda, right? Like, oh, COVID's not going anywhere. COVID's not going anywhere. So you need to jimmy rig an AC because the people in your family are deadly and you can't breathe the same air as them. I mean, there's several layers to this insanity, and that's why. I mean, look, I know it's probably racially insensitive, but they really are. What is it? Leanna Wynn, Teresa Tam, and that woman from the Washington Post are like the demon trinity of weird Asian medical tyranny puppets.
Well, what I don't understand is she's sitting like, where are you placing this fan? Are you placing it in a window? In which case, your window's open anyways, and you're blowing in cold air. But if you're placing it anywhere else, it can't suck in all the air from inside the house. It's a home fan. Like the air still exists around you.
Yeah, but
like, so you're not just avoiding all the other air. And another point is, does she think that if no fresh air gets inside just during the wintertime, that you just suffocate with the windows closed? So like,
do you
you're just
not leave the house
recirculating
at
the
all? You
same
never
air?
go outside. You never even open the door to even leave the front door, or like put like you.
I'm gonna have to comment on this, Eric.
Look, okay, it
when
doesn't.
when we get off here.
It doesn't get cold enough here in Arizona. Like it'll get to 45 or something, which I don't know what that is in Canadian, but
What's weird is, sorry to interrupt again, but what's weird is the closer you get to freezing in Fahrenheit and Celsius becomes the same. Once you hit 0, they're both the same. It's weird. What you're like -2 is like our -3.
oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
no
like it.
scientist, but yeah, you're trying to make like valid points about why that's stupid. But from where she's coming from, all it is remember that COVID's still here, so do something stupid. Before we asked you to put on goggles and 2 masks and get 3 or 4 shots. We asked you to do all that stupid stuff, only take left turns, walk through doorways backwards or whatever it is. Just keep doing stupid stuff that we tell you to do because you need to be afraid of something. That's what it's about. You're trying to make it into a logical thing, and it's clearly not a logical thing. It's just like, oh no, COVID, no foreseeable future. It's all absolute nonsense. Jeez. I think I was too
UOPod.com, Andrew says TV.com. Thank you for watching on Getter, the greatest podcast on Getter. Lots of people watching today on Getter, by the way, Eric Butler. Over 1,200 last time I checked. So big episode today. Thank you for everybody on there. Thank you to Twitch guy. Thank you for Twitter and YouTube viewers and anybody listening right now on Spotify and Google and Apple Podcasts. We are gaining traction on there. Before we go, Eric, I found that quote you were talking about. A person is smart, people are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals. That's from Men in Black. And it came right after I mentioned the memory eraser.
Wow. Okay.
Agent K, which goes in line with Q as well. Agent K, Q, Will Smith slapping a guy, and then
that's funny. I thought that was like a much deeper like allegory.
It probably is
allegory of the cave, Aristotle. Oh, philosophical thing is just Will Smith before he slapped a guy. Okay, got it.
It was Tommy Lee Jones.
Okay, yeah, Agent K.
Anything else to say, Eric? Yes. Never saw the third one. Did you?
I did not see the third one, but I will end with this. Buy my book.
His racist book.
Turn it up, Jordan.